So you've got a podcast, but you have no idea how to make it grow or monetize it. You've come to the right place. The Turnkey Podcast will give you the best tips on how to create a professional podcast. Whether you want to grow your audience, your influence, your bank account, or all of the above, this is the podcast for you. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, we're going to straddle two lines today, the Turnkey Podcast and Nice Guys on Business Podcast too, with today's guest, because I think the message would really apply whether you're a business person looking to start a podcast or you're an existing podcaster or thinking about starting a podcast and over at Turnkey Podcast. So today's guest, with his roots deep in the scientific space, today's guest, Colin Gray, is a pioneer way back to 1997 in astrophysics. So I'm really curious. I wonder if he became a rocket scientist. Well, we're going to find out. Sounds like a far cry from podcasting, but not really. With his out-of-the-box thinking and a team of pros, Colin founded a company called Alitu, and we'll share exactly info on what that is and how you might be able to take advantage of the services that he has there. He's also my brother in lactose intolerance. I noted from a last episode that he did. He had I think a pound of camembert cheese and discovered a little bit of stuffiness in producing that episode. He's the host and the co-host of PodCraft, along with his co-host Matthew, and it's called Honing the Art of Podcasting. If you want to launch and grow your dream podcast, check out today's episode for nuggets you need. Colin, welcome to both Turnkey and the Nice Guys on Business Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Doug. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's sometimes it's a little bit nerving to talk to somebody that is in the business of podcasting also, because I wonder how much of a microscope that everything that I say and do is going to be put under for you. But you seem, and Matthew seems also, you guys seem to be pretty laid back and chill with your style.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's that funny thing where you can teach people to, the perfect approach to doing these kind of things. But in the end, with podcasting, the power of it is really just that you can, it's pretty flexible. And a lot of the appeal to the listener is that, the personality, the flexibility. It's really just, going with flow in many cases. So I always find as long as you've got a good plan to follow along and you don't go off track too far, then you're all good.
We call it, on our Nice Guys on Business, we have a Friday show called I'm going to beep this out, probably not, the Friday Fuckery Show, where we don't talk about anything business related. We have one episode a week that is business and interviews, and the other episode is just me and my co-host. We've been doing this for, we have almost 1,400 episodes of that show. And we kind of go off the rails oftentimes just because I think that people come to the show because they like initially the content that we provide, but they stay with the show and is in most hosts because they fall in love or they fall in like with the content that the host, the information that the host provides and the personality of the host. So we wanted to give them a little bit more of us, and we find it's a pretty interesting mix. We don't like to put a lot of church-going people on our Friday shows, but we do like to share a lot of good content with them, just about everything and anything in general on that show. Yeah. And you guys, I love how you get into conversations. You and Matthew got into this whole conversation about YouTube videos and whether an audio podcast could become a video podcast. But then you went off the rail and you started talking about cheese and drinking 15 pints and all the other stuff. So you do share a little bit about yourself too.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, those kind of divergences, isn't it? Where people want to hear about the background. They want to hear a bit more about the host. They want to hear the personality, the kind of, your likes and dislikes outside of the standard stuff you're teaching. And I did make an attempt. It's good research, by the way, Doug.
Well, thanks.
I did make an attempt with that camembert story to bring it back to a tip in podcasting, which is, if you eat like 5 pounds of cheese before you go and start recording, your voice is not going to be ideal.
Yes, totally. Totally
probably
agree.
Most sensible people know that, though.
All right, let's draw the connection. In the intro, I shared a little bit about your background in astrophysics going back to 1997. Were you always a pioneer or scientific brain when it came to problem solving? And is that how you got into podcasting? Or maybe draw the line from astrophysics to podcasting for me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was always interested in science. I've always had that kind of lean of a brain. Like I liked maths and physics particularly. Although it's funny, at school I was still really into art as well. I had art classes too, so I've always had kind of both sides. But I think when it came to choosing a career path, it seemed obvious that the scientific side was the more easier way to get a job as opposed to trying to be an artist. But I didn't really enjoy it, frankly. It was so much maths. It was so much kind of theoretical stuff. And I think that was where it fell down for me. There's too much theory, too much like looking out into space and knowing how it works, but actually never getting to touch it, never getting to make it, never getting to, you never getting to actually interact. And that's when I ended up going towards more the internet and web design and things like that at that point. I mean, this was like 2001, so it wasn't the very, very, very early days, but it was definitely in the sort of fledgling days of the web. So I got into web design, I got into e-commerce, I got into animation. I really enjoyed drawing, like bringing together that kind of art and the science. So drawing on a computer, really good fun. And that took me to teaching, really. I ended up teaching those skills at a university in Edinburgh. And that's what got me to podcasting, because a boss that I had at the university told me one day, he was like, so you teach tech and podcast, you teach tech to lecturers, you teach them how to use tech to teach people more effectively. There's this new thing I've heard about. It's called like podcasting or something. Like, go and look into that, find out how it works. And so I did. I went and had a look. And I just fell in love with the medium. There was like this kind of combination that was perfect for me, which was gadgets and geekery for the first bit. You get to mess around with mics and recording and like production and all that kind of stuff, but also the art of speaking and presentation skills and teaching and like being able to go deep on things and speak for like an hour at a time on something, and people give you that time. I mean, you know that, Doug, don't you? Like it's you don't get that amount of time with any other medium, do you?
Well, and I hate it. I was a blogger in the way beginning of me starting my podcast. Before I started the podcast, I was writing a blog, and it would come out on Monday morning at like 6 a.m. and midnight on Sunday, I'd be freaking out thinking, how am I ever going to, I don't even have an idea for what for this blog that's supposed to come out tomorrow. And podcasting, it makes it so much easier for me to speak it into existence. I have great guests like you. Every once in a while I do a monologue episode. Very seldom do I do a monologue episode though, because I love the conversation, the relationship build, as opposed to just, dumping knowledge. And so for me, I love the whole idea of podcasting. Most people, though, get into podcasting, and I share this with my audience on Turnkey oftentimes, they get into it for one of three reasons. They either want to build their community, they want to grow influence, or they want to make money. And somewhere in there, while they are all byproducts of each other, influence, community, and money, people start with one of those three as their leading idea. If you had to put yourself into one of those three categories when you started, what was it? And I'm thinking as a teacher, you were probably doing the community build, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it was definitely the community side, because it was definitely a side hustle for me in the early days. It wasn't even as much as a side hustle. It was a hobby. It was just for fun. I was earning a living. I had a proper job. It's like an actual career, isn't it? In teaching and stuff. And I had no idea it would turn into anything else. I was just really into the whole kind of craft of it, like getting better at both the techie side of it, the arty side of it, the presentation side of it, teaching all that stuff. And I just like to write about it and talk about it. So it was definitely that in the early days, the community side of things. But yeah, as soon as the traffic started picking up on the site, and I started seeing like a couple of pennies come in from Amazon and our affiliate links and stuff like that. I did turn it around a little bit, I have to admit.
Yeah, really. It's almost like as soon as you see that there is water in the well, it's like, how do I pump this faster to get more money, more water to come out of this well? When was it that you discovered that there is opportunity for actually making a living at podcasting? Because I think early on for me, it was, I came up with my podcast in 2015. We started it, and I think we sold a couple of books because I had just released a book. And then it took probably 2 years before we started to see any kind of appreciable money out of the podcast. So how early on was it for you that you started to see some rewards?
Yeah, it was a while. I mean, I think I started the blog. I looked back recently, actually. I think it was November 2010. So that was when the podcasthost.com was founded. One of my first articles was around microphones, because again, a bit geeky, like writing about that kind of stuff. It was the best microphones that I'd found. And I think it can't have been more than a year or two before I actually found out about affiliate marketing, for example, like being able to sign up for the Amazon program, popped some links into the blog. And then I think it was probably around that time. So that would be 2012, 2013, maybe 2 or 3 years later before, $1 or $2 popped in. But I do remember it escalated pretty fast at that point. Like it was up to, 100 within the first month, and then 300, and then 6, and then 1,000. And each month it grew fast, actually. We got up to a decent amount. So yeah, I think as soon as it was exactly like you say there, Doug, like as soon as I saw something there, I was like, "Oh, there's something nice here."
Yeah, let's figure out how to let's figure out how to tweak this. and how, early on, most people are stuck in that ego metric of how many downloads that I have, when the downloads don't necessarily equate to any dollars coming in the door. It's more of the, you've got to have conversion for any of this to happen. How did you know what to say to get people in your community to convert to customers, whether it was through an affiliate link or any other program that you had? And how many listeners did you need to have in your community in total in order to start to see some appreciable results? Do you remember those numbers at all?
I remember, on a kind of broad sense, I remember that I discovered, one of our unique advantages at the time was I was writing, not speaking. I was running the podcast. The podcast did get some good numbers. Like wasn't massive, maybe 400 or 500 per episode, which is decent enough for a little, niche like podcasting. But the blog grew faster. Like the articles were seeing, I can't remember exactly. I think we were in the sort of 50,000 to 100,000 per month region around that time, which is, again, pretty decent for that kind of little niche. And at that point, that was enough to be earning in the kind of low thousands per month in terms of affiliate revenue. So I saw that as long as you're specific, as long as you find this little group of people, you write something really valuable for them. So I wasn't telling them to buy anything. I was just saying, these are the 8 mics that I've tried out. I really like. Here's the pros and cons for each one. You choose. I'm not even going to recommend any one for you. You know yourself better. So I was doing no selling whatsoever. I was just providing as much information to help them make their choice as possible. And people seemed to like that. They would click on our links, they would buy, and they'd be off and running their show.
What I love about what you say here is that it's so important. And as you're listening to this, whether you're in our Nice Guy community and have a business community that is attracted to your products or services, or you're a podcaster looking to share your message with a community, the importance of micro niching down. Actually finding specific people. If you could name the people in your audience, and you don't need, Colin just said 400 or 500 people. You don't need tens of thousands. You don't have to have a Joe Rogan audience. You don't have to have a Tim Ferriss audience in order for you to make at least a part-time hustle. Certainly it's great to have millions of listeners, but for normal people like me and Colin, and I'm going to put us in the same bucket as normal, if whatever that would be, we will never have hundreds of thousands or millions of people, because I don't think that that's the nature of. I have a show called Ford Mustang The Early Years podcast. I own a 1965 Mustang, and specifically first generation Mustang owners listen to our show, and we get about 1,000 listens for every episode. And that is a crusher audience. That's an audience that I can convert 20 to 30% for a call to action to get them to take any kind of action. On my business show, Nice Guys on Business, we might be lucky if we get 0.1% to take action. So can you just spend a moment just talking about the importance of having that really finely tuned in, dialed in, laser focused audience for your products and services?
That is absolutely key. I talk about this all the time as well, Doug. It's the classic thing. People come to us and they say, right, how can I build a big audience? I want to grow to 100,000. I want to compete with Joe Rogan, like you say. It's entirely unnecessary. I'm talking about 500 being quite big for a niche audience, actually. Yeah. I have seen people running podcasts with 50 to 100 listens per episode, maybe even less, 20, 30, 40. And they're really disheartened by that. They're like, what, there's only 40 or 50 people listening. And then we think, right, okay, what's the strategy around this? What's your niche? Your niche is like really specific. It's like social media marketing for plumbers or something like that, you know?
Right, exactly.
You've got 50 plumbers around the world who are all really interested in using social media to grow their plumbing business. 50 of them. That means that exactly what you just said there, Doug, you can convert like 90% of them into any product you say. So if you say, right, I've only got 50 listeners, but I'm going to charge £1,000 a month to actually advise these guys really heavily, give them a real concierge service, you can earn a really good living off 50 listeners to your podcast. It's bonkers.
I love that you can do that. And I love that, my challenge is that when I share that information with my community or my clients, it's not that they don't believe me, because I'm hoping that my clients trust me, but at the same time, there is proof to, one success, maybe, okay, coincidence, that guy was successful. Two people in the same industry that are talking the same words. I'm like, the reality of it is you don't need a large audience in order for you to actually make a living at it. As a matter of fact, the smaller your audience, actually, the finer tuned in that you can. If you dial into a specific community, it's great. The podcast community, just like the Ford Mustang community, highly tuned in to the messages that we share. All right, so take me from you doing some affiliate marketing, making some affiliate sales through Amazon, to your next business step. Did Alitu come next, or is there a bunch of stuff between your affiliate and Alitu?
Yeah, there was a fair few things, but the key step, I think, was probably one of the failures that we had along the way, which was trying to get into production. So like you that's what you do, isn't it, Doug? You do a lot of production work. Matthew and I got into that at the time and started producing for other people. It seemed like a natural step because we were podcasting, we were running content around that. We'll just make them for other people. And, honestly, I just don't think either of us were organized enough or motivated enough to actually make that work. I think I'm
not either. My partner is very organized, and he is a great systems guy. We rely upon each other's strengths, me in the relationship and building side, and him on the systems and process side. I could not do it. Don't put me in a spreadsheet. Never. Don't ever put me in a spreadsheet.
That is exactly what you need, isn't it? You need that to run that system, to make that scale, for sure. I think we got up to about 8 clients reasonably quickly, but we managed. We didn't quite ruin anyone's podcasts, but we were definitely reaching our limits at that point. And I think it was that point where I was thinking, some of this stuff, we're just doing the same thing again and again. Every single week, it's the same music, the same transitions, the same bumpers, all that kind of stuff. Can I automate this? I must be able to automate this somehow. And it was at that point I started looking into software and talking to developers and asking, like, what's out there? What could we use to actually automate some of this process? And really, that was the genesis of Alitu, because that research around 2015, I spent about a year really looking into what was out there, talking to developers around what was possible. And that turned into the idea for the first version of it, which was really designed to be it was designed to automate a fair bit, which means automating the theme music. So your theme music would be added automatically. The transitions would be added automatically. So your music smoothly fades into the voice, and the same at the other ends. Cleanup was all done as well. So you get your noise reduction, your leveling, all that kind of stuff. But key was to actually have an editor in there too, which let you do your full audio editing. So cutting out anything you like, trimming it down, splitting the clip, but without all of the crazy bells and whistles.
Oh my gosh.
You and I, Doug, that we know fine in Audition or Audacity or whatever it is, which is great for an audio engineer, but for the average podcaster, they don't
want to do it. They don't want to do it. Yeah, I'm in Hindenburg, and I have the simplest version of Hindenburg. And I'll tell you, even for a guy like me who tends to be a little bit technical, I like the tech stuff. I kind of have fun. I geek out on that.
Yeah,
but I don't want to do my editing. I don't want to do it myself. I don't even edit my own shows. I give it to somebody that's on my team to edit, because I don't, it's like, but if you had a simple editor, it would make it so much easier. Just something that is so basic, but is sufficient to do what we needed to get done. And it sounds like that's what you did.
That's exactly it. Like podcasters need, 10 or 20% of what is in a standard DAW, a digital audio workstation. Even the name of it is just, it's over the top, isn't it?
It's intimidating.
Exactly. And I think, it's a lesson that I've kind of seen in other industries as well. I think there's so much opportunity in just about any industry to find those places where people are, bodging tools together. They're using something that's not necessarily designed for them. Even the basic, as you mentioned, spreadsheets a little while ago, like using a spreadsheet for a production company. That many people will do that, but actually, there's lots in that spreadsheet they don't need or use or understand. So build a specialist tool for it. There's so many great little micro businesses running with just a couple of staff making a really good living, running this great little tool for an industry of 100,000 companies around the world or something like that. It's niching down, but a different approach to the monetization side.
All right. So there is a far leap from creating a great product. What's the expression? Build it and they will come. Well, that never happens to me. So it's like it sounds like you built something that's pretty robust, but at the same time, simple to use. But now you got to take it to the market. So was that at all a challenge or was that just an easy process for you?
Well, we had the advantage that we had the content first. So, we had the blog, we had the podcast host, we had the podcast, PodCraft, and both of them were targeting the exact audience that Alitu was built. So I built a product really based on the demand I saw from the people that already watched our content. I think that's a great way to design a business. Like if people can afford to do that, it's not ideal for some people, but if you can afford to just start making content for an audience that you like, maybe you already do, ask them what their problems are, their barriers are, and you'll probably find a tool or a bit of software or something like that in there. And the advantage is, of course, that once you build it, you've got a ready-made market for it, a ready-made audience to buy it.
I love it. I love it. And just, again, keep in mind, whether you're listening through Nice Guys or you're listening through Turnkey Podcast, Colin did not invest tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in developing a product without knowing that his market wanted it or would need it first. He went to his market. He already built the community, and then he dropped in a product or service. That is so much better a way to do it than to invest all of your money into something that you think that your community is going to want and that they don't want. Was that your experience?
Yes, exactly that. Yeah, totally. I mean, we have built other things. We've made other things which weren't necessarily asked for. I mean, it was the biggest question we always got back when we just were sort of searching for content for the blog, asking people, what do you struggle with? The first question, one of the top three at least, was always, oh, I just hate editing. It just takes too long. It's just not hard. It's too techie. So it was the most clear, obvious problem that we could try and solve.
So again, as you're listening to this, think about the effort and the time and the energy that you're putting into whether it's editing your own episodes or posting them to your host site or creating your cover art or adding anything new to your podcast environment. And you're working with a company like Turnkey, and I'm not going to sell against Turnkey, but Turnkey has a certain market. We are looking for a market that is probably in the higher end. They want someone else to do it for them. That's not everybody, though. Not everybody wants to spend $500, $700, $1,000 a month for it. And when I found out the pricing of your product, I had to stop, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I need to figure out how to actually work with, and I met with one of your workers, Jacob, how to work with your company and figure out, okay, how do I get this into the hands of all the people that don't want to go for the full service but want to do it on their own? And I'm not belittling anybody that wants to do it on their own. That's great. We have a certain market. Our market is not for the person that wants to do it on their own, but I don't want to lose that opportunity either. Can you share about how much money the Alitu costs on a monthly basis for somebody to hop in?
Well, yeah, we charge $38 a month.
All right,
and
so
that covers, yeah.
Come on, if you're listening to this and you are doing your own editing, $38 a month is a drop in the bucket. And if you think it's, well, I can't afford it or it's too much, then I would say we need to work on some business management tools. You need to come into my coaching program so I can teach you about the reality of running a business effectively. $38 a month is a drop in the bucket I mean, people are spending that on, a couple of cups of coffee at Starbucks and their Spotify subscription. Drop those things, do this, and you'll see some rewards there. What's the next step for you as far as development? Do you have other things in the works right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, over the last couple of years, we added in call recording, we added in transcriptions, we've just added hosting as well. So that's us got Alitu to be kind of an all-in-one platform. So it's all you need to run a podcast these days, which is really cool. That was kind of our goal for a couple of years. So next, it's kind of blue ocean, to be honest. At the moment, we're actually going back to that same process again, asking our customers, what are you struggling with? And particularly with Alitu, actually, like, what do you want this to do more of? We talked about adding video. You mentioned that episode we did recently, Doug. We're looking at adding video potentially. We're looking at adding things like editing with text. We're looking at monetization type options. So there's lots of different things we could do. But really, the next 6 months are going to be powered by a big kind of customer feedback campaign we're doing right now and asking them exactly what they want us to do.
Well, I so appreciate you coming on the show and sharing. And for those in our community that are looking towards doing this, doing your editing and production with Alitu as the platform, just check the link in the show notes. We'll make sure that we put access to. I don't even know if I have an affiliate code, but we're going to have one after today because I have a feeling that we'll get some customers that way. We would appreciate if you click the link in the show notes, and that way Colin and his group will know that Turnkey has actually turned in some customers on to his services. So before we wrap up, I'm really curious, just because this is all a part of our journeys together as podcasters. There's always that hidden gift that we get from podcasting that we didn't expect to get when we first got into podcasting. For me, it was the relationships that I've been able to build over the over 1,000 episodes of my own show. Those people that have sat in that guest seat built some great relationships. Is there any hidden gifts that you have gotten from podcasting that you didn't anticipate when you first got started?
Yeah, 100%. Like dozens, but probably the one that stands out most is simple confidence. Actually, I was a pretty shy guy, very shy kid, and the first time I started podcasting, it was like being able to speak kind of intimately, personally to people rather than, stand up in front of a crowd. But just a few years later, through all of that, I ended up doing and still do, talks in front of literally thousands of people. So, and the sense of achievement and kind of joy I get out of that these days is just amazing to me. I'm pretty sure my 13, 14-year-old self would be absolutely aghast at what I ended up doing in terms of talking and stuff. So yeah, it's mainly that. It's the confidence around, communication and getting in front of people like that.
Well, and I do love that, and that comes through, that humbleness, but confidence comes through in your episodes and how you present along with Matthew. You guys do such a great job, and I would encourage anybody to check out PodCraft. PodCraft, right? I got it right.
Yeah,
okay, PodCraft is the name of the show. We'll make sure we put a link in the show notes for that as well. Colin, thanks for sharing your magic on today's show. Thanks for being here and sharing what you do and how you do it.
No, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Turnkey Podcast community, thanks for tuning in another week. Nice Guy community, thank you for also tuning in to this episode of the Turnkey Podcast. Until next time, see you again soon.
Thanks for listening to the Turnkey Podcast. If you like the show, please rate, recommend, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. Yes, that's the call to action. Make sure to include one on your show also. You can get more valuable advice at turnkeypodcast.com.